Welcome to Kiss List Confessions, where authors of kissing books talk about kissing. I'm Melanie Johnson, and today my guest is Stacey Agdern, the author of some delightful books, and she's going to tell us more about them. But before we get to the books, we are going to dive right in and talk about kissing. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, Melanie. Thank you so much for having me.
I am delighted to have you here, and I cannot wait. I love this question. The very first question is so much fun. I want you to tell me what your first kiss was like, but you've got to tell me in 3 words.
Unexpected, fun, and interesting.
Unexpected, fun, and interesting. That's a pretty tall order for a first kiss. Wow. So tell me more about this.
So I was a late bloomer. I was, Coke bottle glasses, quiet, shy as heck when I was younger. And so I started wearing contact lenses when I was in high school. And for whatever reason, that kind of like changed my the way that people perceived me in a lot of ways. But so my junior year, I started dating this guy. He was my first boyfriend. And it was high school. So all of a sudden, it was like, okay, it was really cool. And then all of a sudden we were kissing and it was wonderful. And it was my first kiss and it was out of nowhere. It was kind of amazing. Of course, like after that relationship ended, I ended up going to a conference in Washington, D.C. and coming back with 2 guys that I was dating at the same time. So but that literally has been the pattern of my dating life, generally speaking. Like I go through intense periods of singledom, like now, and followed by intense periods of dating. So
I just love that you kind of made up for lost time there.
Yes.
You're like, okay, the kissing train has left the station, and here I can come back with 2 boyfriends.
Exactly. And like by the time by the time of my senior year, I had gone to 2 proms my junior year, and then I met my next boyfriend on a college visit. So who came to visit me for my prom. We did not actually go to prom, but we kind of hung out around that point. So
that's super cute. So tell us again your 3 words.
Unexpected, fun, and interesting.
Unexpected, fun, and interesting. So what about it made it interesting?
Because again, like late bloomer, like I'd gone through a period of time where I did not expect to ever. So it was kind of an interesting phenomenon to go from like never expecting it to having it happen. Like there
okay, and that makes sense.
Yeah, like it was, brain is not working, but like the idea of like, dreaming about it and then having it happen within a very short span of time was just like, cool, like, okay. And then even more so after that, because of course the floodgates were open and I was like, awesome, let's do it.
It's like you broke the seal.
Exactly. And what I learned in a lot of ways was that I was always going to meet people outside of where I lived. My relationships in a lot of cases, like the guys that I dated in school, they were all guys who didn't live where I did. The boyfriend that I didn't take to the prom was from Pennsylvania. Like there was one guy from like a couple of towns, like 2 different guys were from my county, but like a couple towns over. So none of them were in the same sort of graduating class that I was, if that makes sense. So
interesting. As you said, interesting. There you go.
Exactly. Like
all right. So you've had some time to think about this. You talked about being a late bloomer, and thinking about what your first kiss might be like. So I'm sure you have a great answer for this one. It's 3 fictional characters that you think would make great kissers. And that is, they don't necessarily you don't have to ever actually have seen them kiss, but based on their characteristics, their qualities, you're like, oh yeah, something about this character would make them a great kisser.
So there are 2 different actors that I follow on Hallmark Channel. I watch their movies a lot, and they're both really, really good at sort of showing emotion. So each of the characters that they play would be fantastic kissers because they're really, really good at like unleashing that kind of emotion. Like it's tied to that sort of anticipatory feeling, and you're just like, oh my God, like kiss me now. Like you're ready, you're primed, you're ready to go. And then
especially in a Hallmark movie where that kiss, like they lead up to it, and that's so much. So who are these? Now are they actors that play multiple characters?
Yes, they play multiple characters in multiple movies. So like, you know, it's a movie trajectory, and so I know like when I can watch these movies that like, so like
because they have that vibe.
Exactly, they have that sort of charisma. Like someone once said about one of the two of them that they could sell ice in winter, and it's so true. So the two actors that I love watching on Hallmark Channel are Ryan Paevey and Tyler Hynes.
Now Ryan, he was the one in that time travel.
Yes,
exactly. Yes. That was such a fun one. And he's got a great voice too.
Yes, he really does. And like, you know, he's really good at sort of embodying that like slightly sort of conservative, slightly sort of
stuffy almost.
Exactly. But like, you know, he holds his emotions back, but it's very, very clear, and it's just wonderful to watch. And you could tell
you just made what we like to call good book noise.
Yeah.
That's
but it's also like, I think for me, like when you talk about the things that I like to read about, the tropes that I like to read about, that sort of person who discovers that it's okay to feel is kind of an obsession, is like a fascination of mine in terms of, you know, romance novels, generally speaking. So the characters that do that, I'm just like, give me. Like I have a strong and sneaking suspicion that the book I'm reading right now, the main male character in that book is one of those characters. And when we get to the point where like he unleashes those emotions, it's going to be amazing because it seems like this particular character is someone who is not used to feeling his emotions that way. So it's kind of like, I'm just really excited.
Yeah, that is fun to see that kind of like that unraveling, so to speak. Yeah,
exactly.
Yes. Oh, that is a favorite. So now that was two. Do you have one more?
Trying to think. I may come back to it, but like those two are the first one I can.
Oh yeah, that's fine. And I love how that kind of ties into so much of, like you said, so much of what you love and what you enjoy. And these questions have been great, asking authors these questions, because it kind of taps into the pieces of the characters that they put together and that they write. And so it's so much fun to see this. All right. So speaking of kissing, now we're going to move to actual kisses on the page or on the screen. We're talking about favorite kisses from books and movies or TV.
So my first, of course, because me, is The Cutting Edge.
Yes.
Where like, you know, they've done that final dance and like they're not doing it for the dance. They're not doing it for the sport. They're not doing it they're doing it for each other. And like you get that sort of, it's just beautiful, like that explosion of emotion from both of them. And it's just so like, it's kind of amazing. And it's like, yeah, they may have won the medal, but doesn't freaking matter because they've got each other. And that's like, oh, it's beautiful.
Every time I hear you talk about The Cutting Edge, you make me want to go watch it again.
I love that movie so much. It's like, there's so much there. Like I will eventually write my own version of that because it's just done so fantastically well on so many different levels, not just the sports level, but like the emotional level. The emotional beats are so there. And it's just, yeah.
I was just going to say, I'd be curious to see if there's a Save the Cat, like beat sheet breakdown of that movie.
I would not be surprised. I have not seen it, but I would not be surprised if one exists because like, it's just that sort of pitch perfect.
All right. So Cutting Edge, what else?
So I think it's the Princess Diaries at the very end where they're kissing in front of the fountain. And like, it's that perfect kiss. And she finally gets that perfect kiss and she lifts her foot.
Yes. Yes. That moment where it like,
Mhm. Like, again, it's that question of anticipation. Like, and finally she's got that kiss that's like everything that she's dreamed about.
I never put this together, but that's a bit in Jane the Virgin too. The foot lift.
Ooh.
I have to go back now because that's like that when that moment happens.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I do, and that is such a trope thing. Like if that,
it is.
if you're in it and that foot goes up, oh.
Mhm. It's like you're so focused and you're so like involved and immersed in that kiss that you don't even realize you.
Like you're literally being like lifted off your feet.
Exactly. It's kind of it's just amazing and it's just perfect and it's and it's like everything that you want a kiss to be. I think
Yes.
in a lot of ways.
Okay. And then number 3.
So of course, like we talked about Hallmark actors before, so of course this ties into my I love like when it is done right, that perfect anticipatory kiss in a Hallmark movie. Like you can't beat that. Like it's like when you are, in a romantic, in a suspense and like you solve the mystery and that moment just happens. Like that's a euphoria, right? Like the same with like an action movie where like everybody's, the bad guys are like dispersed and like the hero is there to live another day. Like again, that's euphoria. Same thing with that perfect kiss from the Hallmark movie. If it is done right, if the beats are pitch perfect, like you're sitting there at the end going, yes, like this is that moment. This is everything we've been promised from the beginning of the movie to now. And it's just.
Yes, that's exactly it. Right. Like all the pieces that we've been you've been feeding us this. Now let's deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and honestly, again, like when it is like something that the audience has been waiting for that whole time,
Mm-hmm.
they're expecting like, yeah, we want it to be everything. Can you think of a particular Hallmark movie kiss that really delivers for you?
So I think I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. It's going to drive me absolutely.
They do kind of all blend together
in a lot of ways. Yeah. There is the male character is a fantasy writer, and the female character has written a memoir.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen I haven't watched a lot of non-holiday ones.
So I think this one may be called a novel romance. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, their publisher puts them on book tour together, which is for whatever reason. And so of course, like there are a lot of like, only one hotel moments and stuff like that because,
Yes.
And at the very end, at the very end of the movie, it's her first like big book signing now that she's decided that she's going to do the thing, like that she's not terrified anymore. And it's like such wish fulfillment, right? Like, in-person bookstore. And she's like doing her thing and talking about finally what's going to be her next book. And there's a question from the audience because of course, like in the scene just before, in the sequences just before, we've had like the crisis point where like she thinks he's actually dating his ex-wife. And so like, there's no chance for them. And so like at this bookstore, there's a question from the audience and it's him. And she's like, so, she makes some kind of snide comment. She's like, no. And then he comes up and it's this brilliant, beautiful moment where like all that anticipation, all that like, camaraderie that's been built up through this entire movie just happens and explodes. And it's just beautiful to watch. And it's,
you're selling me on this. I'm going to have to go check this out. A novel romance, you think maybe, but I will look it up. All I have to do is type in like the whole, the two authors on tour together and I will find it. All right. So you talked a little bit about the fountain, in the one Princess Diaries kiss. So location and atmosphere can definitely be a very important part of raising the level of the quality of the kiss. Not always. Really good kisses can happen anywhere, but it doesn't hurt to have a bit of atmosphere. Yes. So what are 3 locations that you think make ideal kissing spots, whether ones you've experienced personally or maybe ones on your bucket list, in your imagination?
So, first of all, in the middle of a bookstore is kind of amazing. This is from my own personal experience.
Ooh. So I'm picturing, because did you see there was that super cute holiday movie that came out last year and there was a whole bit that took place in the Strand?
I did not see that. I need to go.
Oh, it was so cute. I think it was on Netflix. It was more of a young adult romance, but
okay.
I highly recommend just for the cuteness factor. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, no.
All right. So someone had a kiss in a bookstore, and it was
it was kind of, I'm not
something happening between the stacks. All right.
Yes. And then let's see, definitely in a movie theater, because of course, like there's always like the anticipation. You know, you're like you're with someone on a date, or you know, with someone that you're you know, for whatever reason you're sitting there in the dark.
Right, very dark, and there's the close proximity.
Exactly. And if you're in a certain type of theater, you have the seats going out just a little bit, so it's practically like you're lying down.
Well, yeah, now they have those lounge chairs. Yeah,
exactly.
And you can lift. Kissing in theaters is a whole lot easier nowadays.
Exactly. And oh my God, and it's just like you just can't help it. It's just it happens. Like, and it's beautiful.
I haven't thought about kissing in a movie theater in so long. I'm so like past that moment because I'm used to like hurting kids. There's nothing romantic about that. Share the popcorn.
No, but it's like I haven't been in a movie theater in like obviously in like a while, and so like the fact that I remember this kiss.
Oh, so we are speaking of a specific kiss in a theater that delivered and is very.
Yes.
What? I'm curious. What movie?
Jurassic World. I'm not even kidding. Oh my God.
It has a good soundtrack. Hey,
it totally does, and it was the most. But again, like, you know, you talk about atmosphere, right? You have this like loud, wild action movie going on, and the dinosaurs are like rampaging across the screen. And yet here you are in the dark, in the perfect atmosphere, lying down on these like recliner seats. And, you know,
all right.
I remember to the movie.
All right. One more location for us.
So this is going to be a bucket list for me. But I love, and not, I should preface this by saying I don't want to be on a kiss cam because no way. But at a hockey game.
Okay, so it's not like one of those kiss cam kind of moments because those can be like horribly awkward for sure.
Like, I just, you know, because if I'm getting kissed at a hockey game, that means I've been taken there by someone who I love, who knows how much I love hockey, who knows I want to be at this game. And
so there's all these pieces to how I got there in the first place that makes this kiss. So I see what you're saying when it becomes that all of that becomes part of the bucket list moment in that location.
Exactly.
All right.
That's
I like it. I'm just trying to think like, what kind of like sports, audience member are you? Are you like super into it and super aggressive and cheering?
It depends. I can be very aggressive about it, but it all really depends. Like, I think about, I want to say like 2 years ago, many years ago, I think it was Sophie Turner, who like made a famous like moment where like she was at a Ranger game, and she got caught on the camera and just sort of chugged her wine, which is fantastic. But like, I aspire to that, but the reality is more sort of insane in that like I can either be like very, very aggressive about the game, very, very involved, but it really depends like who I'm with,
Well, I'm picturing like a big score, something really awesome happened, and you're like cheering and super excited, and they're super excited, and then you embrace.
Yeah. Either that or like, he's not necessarily so much into hockey, but he's humoring me because he finds it
Aw.
fascinating to watch me. And so I'm like leaning in, you know, my head half on his shoulder and like kind of explaining what's going on. And then something major happens. And then he gets excited and I get excited because like he's actually getting into the game. And I turn my head and
Oh my goodness.
yeah. As I said, bucket list. It's a bucket
I was gonna say, yes, this is you know you're a romance author when it's
exactly.
pre-scripted. Well, I'm putting that into the universe, Stacey, that this is going to happen. Yes. For sure. Yes. All right. So my favorite question, our last question, is if you were creating a kissing music playlist, what are 3 songs that have to go on that playlist?
So the first one is Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think about that song like all the time in terms of like, you know, it's an anticipation song. It's we're here in this beautiful moment. Just kiss me is what that song says. And it's just so perfect. Like it's just such a perfect sort of anticipation coming song. Crush, Crush, Crush by Paramore.
Oh, okay.
You know, I've got a lot to say to you. You know, I noticed your eyes are always glued to me. You know, very sort of like, all right, come on, let's do this. Like, you know, we're here right now. Like, I see you and I like what I see. Like, okay.
Make it happen. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, so trying to think, because I've got like a bunch of them in my head for number 3. I couldn't decide because
a lot of people have this problem. If you have to, you know, have a tiebreaker and tell me 2, that's okay.
Okay. So the first one is Drop by Dallas Smith.
I do not know that song, so I'm going to have to check it out.
So Dallas Smith used to be the lead singer of the band Default. Slightly kind of like alternative metal, sort of rockish kind of, and he found his way into Canadian country music. And he's now
this would explain why I have not heard this song.
Yep. It's like, and he's got this really interesting voice and kind of melody to what he does. And it's like, it's such a sexy song, but it's like, can we drop what we were fighting about and just like talk about it and let's kiss and let's do, you know, and it's like, let's get to it. Basically, it's kind of this like, you know, let's remember like the sexy times from before. Let's remember what we're good at. Let's remember like what brought us here. And it's just, it's, you know, it's anticipation, but in that different sort of a way.
I like that. I really like that. That's like a relationship kiss. Like
exactly.
It's such a great, like, because there are those moments where you're in like a heated argument, or even worse, like the silent moments when you're both angry and not talking to each other, and then this like, let's go back to these, like you said. I'm gonna have to listen to this song. And speaking of, so if you're watching this or listening to it, there is a Spotify playlist of all the songs the authors have suggested, and it is the Kiss List Confessions playlist on Spotify, and you'll find every single song. As long as Spotify has it, it is going to be on there. So hopefully we'll be able to find Drop.
Oh yes.
We'll drop it on the list. And so what's so it was between Drop and something else for your number 3.
So I think I'm actually gonna go to Megan Patrick, who is also a Canadian country singer.
Okay. I was like starting to get worried. I'm like, I haven't heard of her either.
She is slowly making her way back in. She is slowly making her way into the States. But I think one of the first songs that hers that I kind of really, really, really resonated with was a song called Wild as Me. And she does it, like my favorite version of the song is the acoustic version that she does with her actual real life boyfriend, Mitchell Tenpenny.
That's cool.
And yeah, I know, it's awesome. He's like in the earlier versions, he was in the uncredited. He was uncredited backup because he's somewhat of a star in his own right in the United States, and so they kind of like they wanted to make it more about her as opposed to him. But you could tell, especially after this really cool performance of the song that they did at the CCMAs, I want to say, in like 2019, I think. But basically, she's like, I found someone who was wild as me. I found the person who gets me for who I am. You know.
So that sounds hyper romantic.
It is extremely romantic, and it's the song. The lyrics are beautiful, but they're very sort of blunt, sort of beautiful. If that makes any sense, like. You know, my once in a lifetime made of the same kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. I want every sunrise, every sunset. When you hold me tight, it sets me free. I thank God I found someone who's wild as me, is basically the chorus. And it's gorgeous.
Well, I'm glad that you went ahead and told us both of those because they both sound really, really good. So yeah, again, if you haven't heard of these songs either, hopefully we'll be able to put them on the playlist and you can listen to them too. Before we go, I do want to have Stacey talk to us a little bit about what she's working on and what's coming up.
So on June 24th, I will have released my second book in my Friendships and Festivals series, History of Us. It is a second chance impossible relationship story about a museum curator and the heir of the family whose archival history she needs to get her boss to agree to give her an exhibit of her own.
I love it. I'm excited for this book. I have like a soft spot for anything to do with museums. Mm-hmm. So that's really interesting. And you already have that built-in conflict. She's got to try and encourage him to, and I'm sure that there's like some tension there that he doesn't want to agree to have his family's, personal history.
Her boss is awful.
Okay.
He trusts her with every breath in his body, but like her boss is awful. Her boss has a record of destroying property.
Oh, I see. So that makes it even more.
So.
Well, and tell us the name again.
History of Us.
History of Us, and that will be out by the time you're watching this. You'll be able to go and pick it up, so make sure you find that. And if you haven't gotten the first book in this series, and it is, say the name of the series again.
So it's the Friendships and Festivals series, and the first book is called Miracles and Menorahs. And I am currently waiting for copy edits on the third book, Love and Latkes, which will come out in October of 2021.
Yes, Love and Latkes. I'm looking forward to that one too. It would be a great holiday book, lots of fun. So you'll be able to have all three of the Friendships and Festivals books, and that will be lots of fun. So this has been Kiss List Confessions, and I'm Melanie Johnson, and thank you so much for joining me today, Stacey.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah. All right. And don't forget, go out and pick up Miracles and Menorahs, and then the next book, which is
History of Us.
History of Us. And you can go and grab it now.